What if your blood wasn't just biology? That quiet red river flowing under your skin, pulsing through your wrists, has always been explained with charts and tubes, with types and transfusion rules. 2 letters, a positive, B negative, or factor, just sterile labels in a sterile system. Right, but what if they were more? What if the type etched on your medical record wasn't just a classification, but a message, not written in ink, but in rhythm, in memory, in something older than language itself? Carl Jung once said that the most powerful symbols in our lives aren't the ones we consciously choose, but the ones we inherit, symbols that are passed down in dreams, in myths, and maybe even in blood. It's a strange thought, isn't it, that something so clinical could hold the key to something so sacred? But just stay with me. Have you ever met someone you instantly trusted without logic or reason? Or felt drained by a person who seemed perfectly kind on paper? What if these connections were not just psychological, but biological? What if the challenges you keep facing, the patterns that cling to you like shadows, aren't just rooted in your habits or upbringing, but in something deeper, in the lifeblood itself? I'm not asking you to believe anything yet. Just wonder. Because sometimes the truth isn't hiding in some far-off mystery. Sometimes it's already inside you, flowing, whispering, a map written in red, and you've carried it all your life, without ever knowing how to read it. The silent current beneath your skin. I've always believed that the answers we seek are rarely found in the loud places, not in the noise of ambition or the chaos of the crowd, but in the still moments brushing your teeth, waiting at a red light, lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling and wondering, why do I feel this way? Again, if you're anything like me, you've felt it, that quiet ache, the sense that there's something more beneath your reactions, your habits, your choices, something ancient, something encoded. This video isn't about science, though we'll touch on it. It's not even about Carl Jung's textbooks, though. His fingerprints are all over what we're about to explore. It's about you, because this is a journey inward, through the lens of blood types. Yes, those simple letters we're going to explore, how the soul expresses itself through the body, how your unique way of loving, hurting, organizing, resisting, or wandering could be mirrored in the very liquid keeping you alive. Some of this will sound mystical, some unsettling. But if you've ever felt like you were made for something specific, a kind of pattern your life seems to echo, then maybe it's not random. Maybe your blood holds more than oxygen. Maybe it holds your story. So take a breath and come with me, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Type A, the inner architect of order. I've always found a strange comfort in aligning things, not just physical things like straightening picture frames or labeling jars, but inner ones, conversations, plans, memories. They all seem to beg for structure. It's like something inside me needs the world to make sense, to be safe. If you have type A blood, you might know exactly what I mean. There's a quiet rhythm to you, not loud, not flashy, but steady, intentional, anchored. Jung might have called you the sage, the one who seeks truth, not through chaos, but through careful discernment. Your gift isn't just logic, it's the deep, almost spiritual need to refine. You see, type A personalities often walk through life with an internal compass calibrated toward responsibility, not because someone told you to be that way, but because you don't feel right when things are off kilter. It's as if your soul finds peace only in order. That's not just a preference, it's an instinct. Jung believed the psyche expresses itself through symbols, and blood, he said, is one of the oldest. Across myths, blood has always been sacred. A covenant, a sacrifice, a code. So imagine what it means that your particular blood flows with this precise, organizing energy. You might not even notice it at first. You're just the person who remembers birthdays, who balances the budget, who notices when someone's voice trembles. Even if their words are calm, It's subtle, but it matters. People often trust you without knowing why. They say things like, "I just feel better when you're here." You're the emotional architect in the room, quietly constructing safety with presence. But of course, Jung never left it at just strengths. He taught us that every gift casts a shadow. And for Type A, the shadow is anxiety. That same mind that organizes beauty is also the one that can't sleep when there's an unanswered text, or an unwashed dish, or a moment when someone you love is off, and you don't know why. You replay conversations. You measure outcomes. You overthink your own overthinking. Jung called this the introversion of the judging function, a psychic energy turned inward until it becomes self-judgment. And it's exhausting. You start to confuse being perfect with being worthy. You forget that order isn't the goal, it's just a tool. And if you're not careful, the world becomes a task instead of a place to feel alive. I once spent 42 minutes rewriting a thank you email, not because I didn't mean it, but because I needed it to sound right. As if that one email determined whether I was thoughtful enough to be seen. Funny, right? Except it wasn't funny when my chest tightened that night, and I couldn't figure out how to relax. Even perfection, it seems, has a price. But here's the thing Jung would say, and I've learned it the hard way. Integration begins when you notice the pattern and choose compassion instead of control. You're not just the architect, you're also human. And sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is let something be imperfect. Let the picture frame hang slightly crooked. Let the plan unfold instead of driving it. Let yourself be incomplete, because ironically, that's when you feel whole. In relationships, your loyalty is unmatched. You don't flinch in the storm. You remember the small things. You show up again and again, not because you want praise, but because you believe relationships deserve effort. But if that effort always means silencing yourself, then what you're building isn't harmony, it's self-erasure. The sage has to learn to speak, not just listen, to release, not just hold, and maybe most of all, to believe that even in disorder, there's wisdom. Here's something odd. In the 1930s, Japanese researchers began linking blood types with personalities, a cultural theory still widely accepted today. Type A, often described as earnest, sensible, and tense. That sounds almost Jungian, doesn't it? And academically, some psychologists argue that personality types oversimplify the complexity of the human psyche. But Jung would smile and say, that's the point of archetypes. They aren't cages, they're mirrors. So if you're Type A, don't shrink yourself into a box. Stand in front of that mirror and meet your own eyes. Because the order you've been chasing, it was never out there. It's the peace you've been searching for in yourself. Type B, the dreamer who refuses the cage. When I was a kid, I could never sit still, not because I had too much energy, though I did, but because my mind was already somewhere else. Building things, imagining better stories, wondering what would happen if I just wandered off into the woods and didn't come back until something real happened. If you've got Type B blood, I suspect you know this feeling well. Jung would have called you the explorer, or the rebel, but not the kind that breaks rules to be edgy, the kind that needs to find what lies beyond them. There's a lightness to you, a flicker, a current that refuses stillness for too long. You live in possibility. You chase the what if, and when the world tries to trap you in its routines, you smile politely and start planning your escape. This isn't irresponsibility, it's instinct. Type B energy is not designed for boxes, physical or mental. You're the one who sees the open window when others only notice the locked door. You're the one who, in a moment of stillness, can imagine a new world and then miraculously start building it. Of course, not everyone gets it. Some call you scattered. Some say you lack follow-through. They don't see the fire underneath the freedom. They miss the drive, the kind that burns not for achievement, but for discovery. You might start a dozen projects, some will fade, but the one that catches the one that truly matters, you'll carry it with a devotion few people understand. Jung believed that within the psyche lives the transcendent function, the energy that connects opposites and brings the unconscious into dialogue with the conscious. My type B friend, live in that space. You are the bridge between worlds, between logic and intuition, between the known and the unknown. It's why you're drawn to strange ideas, spiritual paths, odd books, late-night conversations that make no sense, but feel like everything. Your relationships reflect this. You crave authenticity deeply. You have no patience for pretense. And while you're fiercely loyal when you love, you'll run the second it becomes a cage. You don't just want freedom, you are freedom. But, and this is the shadow Jung warned us about, even freedom can become a prison. You can get addicted to beginnings, to novelty, to the high of the new before the dust settles and things get ordinary. And then you bolt, not because you don't care, but because you don't know how to stay in something once it's no longer an adventure. I've done it, bailed on jobs too soon, pulled away from relationships when the first signs of stillness arrived. I used to think it meant I was broken. Now I realize it just meant I hadn't learned the other side of my pattern. You see, even explorers need maps, and Jung would say, your growth doesn't come from denying your need to move. It comes from choosing to root, sometimes, even when it's hard, choosing to finish, to deepen, to stay. Not because you have to, but because your soul grows in the tension between the wild and the grounded. Here's a weird fact. In Japan, Type B folks are sometimes seen as passionate, creative, but also unpredictable. There's even workplace discrimination tied to this something called blood harassment. Can you believe that? Even science gets nervous around freedom. And in psychology circles, the debate rages on, is personality fixed or does it evolve? Jung wouldn't pick a side. He'd say both are true. You were born with a pattern, but you also carry the responsibility to transform it. And that's your real work, isn't it? To stay wild but not reckless, to remain curious but learn to finish, to resist the cage but build a nest where you can return again and again to what matters. You are not broken. You are not flighty. You are wind and fire and star maps and rebellion and faith. So go ahead, dream big. Start strange things. Be the spark no one sees coming. But also when it's time, let yourself stay and let the stillness show you that magic doesn't only live at the beginning. Sometimes it lives in the quiet continuation of what you once thought you'd abandon. Because that is freedom. Type AB, the mirror of many selves. There's a particular kind of silence I've only heard in Type AB people. It's not empty. It's not passive. It's the silence of listening to everything at once. If you're Type AB, you probably know what I'm talking about. You're the one who notices both sides of an argument, even when you're the one caught in the middle. You're the one who can walk into a room and feel its emotional temperature before a single word is spoken. And if someone asks your opinion, you pause not because you don't have one, but because you see too much to answer quickly. Jung would have loved you in his world. You are the mediator, the alchemist of paradox, a walking expression of the conjunctio oppositorum, the sacred union of opposites. Biologically, your blood is both A and B, symbolically. You're the human bridge between structure and flow, logic and feeling, independence and connection. It's a gift and a burden. You live in nuance. You navigate complexity with ease, but that same complexity can make you feel like a mystery even to yourself. When I first met someone who was AB, I couldn't figure them out. They were quiet, but intense, warm, but reserved, present, and yet somehow distant. I later realized I wasn't confused by who they were. I was confused by how many layers they held. Type AB people are like mirrors that don't reflect one image. They reflect everyone's. Jung might say you've developed a rare psychic function, the perceiving mind, so finely tuned that it registers contradiction not as error, but as information. You understand that people aren't either. They're both, and because of this, you tend to belong everywhere, and yet nowhere. You're invited into circles, but rarely feel at home. People trust you with their secrets, but you rarely share yours, not because you're hiding, but because your truth is so layered. You're still discovering it yourself. The Japanese Ketsueki-gata system describes ABs as rational, controlled, and mysterious. That mystery, it's not intentional. It's just hard to explain a personality that feels like a symphony of conflicting notes. You may find yourself adapting in every setting fluid, shape-shifting. In one room, the leader. In another, the observer. Jung would warn that this gift, left unchecked, leads to a crisis of identity. The danger isn't that you're too many people. The danger is forgetting who you are when no one else is looking. Have you ever had that moment? Late at night, no noise, just you. And the question, if I stopped performing, who would be left? I have, and it's terrifying. But it's also the door. You see, Jung believed that individuation, the journey to wholeness, is only possible when we integrate the parts we keep hidden. For AB types, the journey isn't about picking a side. It's about owning them all and finding peace in the center. Professionally, you're drawn to roles that require diplomacy, nuance, innovation. You might be a therapist, a mediator, a strategist, a creator of hybrid systems. Because where others see contradiction, you see opportunity for synthesis. There's a strange academic theory that AB blood appeared only around 0 years ago, far more recently than the others. Some speculate it emerged from mixing diverse bloodlines, a biological middle ground. How fitting! But again, it's not about blood. It's about what the blood symbolizes. Jung would say that your very nature points to a higher task, to show the world how opposites don't need to be at war. That conflict can become conversation. That duality isn't fragmentation. It's a deeper form of unity. But let's be honest, that job is heavy. You might feel too much, too tuned in, too sensitive, too caught in what-ifs. And when that happens, you retreat quietly, completely. Not because you're weak, but because you've absorbed too much noise and need silence to remember your own frequency. So if that's where you are right now, if you've gone a little inward, let that be okay. The world will still be here. And maybe, when you come back, you'll offer it the thing it needs most. Not a side, not a solution, but a mirror that says, you can be many things and still be whole. Type O, the warrior of first light. There's a moment I'll never forget. Middle of nowhere, middle of the night, car broken down, phone dead, and me sitting there cursing the sky, until something in me just clicked. Not panic, not surrender, movement. I got out, started walking, didn't know where I was going, but my body did, and that's when I realized this is what it feels like to be led by instinct. If you have type O blood, you probably know that feeling well. The call to act, even before thinking, to move while others hesitate, to step into chaos and bring clarity, not because you enjoy the drama, but because something inside you knows what must be done. Jung would have called you the warrior or the hero, not the kind in armor and capes, the kind who shoulders responsibility without needing applause, biologically. Type O is the original, the oldest, the root from which other types evolved. Symbolically, it makes sense. You carry the energy of first light, the primal, unfiltered drive to survive, protect, build, and lead. You're the person others lean on in crisis, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. You move forward when things fall apart. That's not bravado, that's design. Jung would say, your dominant function is sensing judging, meaning you engage with the world through what is tangible, and you make decisions with focused resolve. And yeah, it works. In business, sports, emergencies, you thrive. You're the one who sees the goal line, while others are still caught in debate. You've probably been told you're too blunt or intimidating. But let's be honest, you're not trying to dominate. You're trying to deliver. Your honesty, your action, your refusal to sugarcoat. It's all rooted in a desire to move things forward. But here comes the Jungian twist. Your strength also casts a long shadow. Impatience with nuance, with delay, with people who seem to be stuck, spinning in their feelings while you're 3 steps ahead, wondering why we're still talking about it. You might call it being efficient. But deep down, sometimes, it's a fear that if you stop, you'll unravel, that if you pause, you'll feel too much. And Jung would say, that's your invitation, because the hero who only acts becomes a hammer looking for a nail. But the hero who learns to listen becomes a force of wisdom. I know it's hard. Stillness feels unnatural when your gifts come alive through doing. But sometimes, power doesn't come from forward motion. It comes from knowing when to wait. In relationships, you're fiercely protective. You're not always romantic, but you're reliable. You show love through action solving, supporting, showing up. You might not say, I love you 1,000 times, but you'll fix the door, hold the line, defend their name when they're not in the room. That's love. But here's the danger. You can become so focused on protecting others, you forget to protect yourself. You can lead so hard. You don't realize how tired you've become. And then one day, you snap. That's the warrior's shadow. Burnout, isolation, a sharp edge that cuts even the people you love. Jung called this the emergence of the inferior function, the part of the psyche we underdevelop because it feels unnatural. For type O, that's often reflection, emotional nuance, ambiguity. You don't like gray areas. You want answers. But life, it turns out, lives mostly in the gray. Here's something weird. Some studies suggest type O individuals may be more prone to adrenaline-related stress responses. It's like your body wants to fight or flee, and yet, the fight is rarely outside. It's inward. It's the battle between doing and being, between fixing and feeling. So here's the challenge. Learn to pause, to reflect, to be with the mess yours and others without trying to clean it up immediately. Because the hero isn't just the one who wins, it's the one who returns home changed. You are powerful. That's not a compliment. It's a responsibility. Your strength moves people, but your softness, when you choose to show it, heals them. So yes, lead, protect. But don't forget to sit by the fire once in a while, to listen to the stories, to let someone else carry the sword. You're not just the warrior. You're a soul ancient, fierce, and worthy of rest. And maybe the greatest strength of all is knowing when to lay your armor down. The RH factor, hidden frequencies of belonging. It's the kind of detail most people never notice. Positive, negative, a tiny symbol on your medical file, usually forgotten after a blood test. RH factor. No big deal, right? But what if Jung were sitting across from you now, sipping his black coffee, eyes twinkling behind those wire-rimmed glasses? He'd lean forward and say, the smallest things often hold the greatest meaning. The RH factor, rhesus positive or negative, is more than a footnote in biology. It's a subtle marker, a whisper of how you relate to the tribe or don't. Roughly 85% of people have RH positive blood. That means they share a protein on their red blood cells, a kind of invisible handshake with the majority of the human race. RH negative. You're in the minority, the 15% who lack that marker. And sometimes, that absence feels like a presence. Let's start with RH positive. If that's you, you likely feel a natural resonance with others. It's easier to belong, to slip into group settings, to feel grounded in traditions and family lines. Jung might describe this as aligning with the archetype of the everyman, the one who finds meaning in connection, in shared purpose, in the tribe, not because you lack individuality, but because your individuality grows through relationship. You probably thrive in teams, feel at home in ceremonies, find peace in doing things the way we've always done them. Even your intuition might steer toward unity, toward building bridges instead of burning them. But every light has its shadow, and the everyman, for all their warmth, can sometimes lose themselves in the crowd, forget their voice, mistake agreement for harmony. If that's you, if you're always nodding, always smoothing things over, ask yourself, have I made myself small just to belong? Because Jung would tell you, you don't have to disappear to be loved. Let's talk about the rare ones. Negative. I once heard someone say, I've always felt like I'm just visiting this place, not alienated, not lonely, just quietly aware that they saw the world a little differently. If that's you, you're in good company. Jung might call you the seer or the hermit, the archetype who doesn't reject the world, but walks beside it. You notice patterns others miss. You hear what's not being said. You're attuned to the symbolic, the spiritual, the strange. You probably don't love crowds. You might struggle to fake small talk. You carry depth like a secret, and only show it when it feels safe. And while that makes you rare, it can also make you feel misplaced. But here's the truth. You're not missing something. You're carrying something others haven't yet remembered. The seer archetype doesn't belong to the group because they're meant to guide it, to walk ahead, to return with insights from places no one else dared to go. Still, the shadow is real. You might isolate too much, doubt your belonging, float so far into introspection, you forget how to be here. I've been there. There were times I felt like a ghost in my own life, not because I didn't care, but because I couldn't connect in the way others seemed to so easily. And then I realized I wasn't broken. I was wired differently. And different is not defective. It's directional. Academically, there's debate about whether Rh-negative blood types have unique origins. Some theories are outlandish, even alien, quite literally. But Jung wouldn't care for the science fiction. He'd care for the symbol. He'd say this is a metaphor for the psychic divide between the collective and the individual, between the one who belongs and the one who watches. But neither is better, neither is whole alone. The everyman brings warmth. The seer brings light, and both must learn from each other. So whether your blood runs positive or negative, literal or symbolic, know this. You are here with us. You may feel connected or distant, woven in or walking alongside. But your rhythm matters. Your presence shapes the field. Your silence speaks. Jung would remind you, belonging isn't about similarity. It's about resonance. And your frequency, whatever it is part of the great song of what it means to be human. You are not late. You are not lost. You are exactly right. Beyond blood, what Jung would ask you now. I once sat across from a man who said, I don't believe in any of that psychology stuff, but I can't shake the feeling that something in me is broken. He wasn't broken. He was unspoken. And he was looking, like most of us, for a pattern, a story that could make sense of the contradictions living inside him. Jung would have called that the call to individuation, not the pursuit of perfection, not self-improvement in the Pinterest kind of way, but the slow, sacred process of becoming whole. So what does that have to do with blood? Everything and nothing. Blood is just a metaphor. It's not the gospel of your personality. It won't predict your dating life or tell you which color to wear next Tuesday, but it is a symbol, one of the oldest, one of the most intimate, and symbols, Jung said, are how the unconscious speaks to us when it's tired of being ignored. Each type we've explored, each carries an archetypal whisper. Each reflects a pattern we might inherit, a lens we may look through. The question isn't whether the pattern is real. The question is what you'll do with it. Maybe you recognized yourself in one of these, maybe more than one. That's not a contradiction, that's complexity. And complexity, Jung believed, is a sign of psychic growth. So let's step back. Have you ever wondered why certain behaviors repeat in your life like clockwork? Why certain people trigger you, or attract you, or make you feel like you've known them in some secret, forgotten way? Why some decisions seem almost fated, as if they weren't choices, but steps on a path already laid? That's the unconscious at work. That's the pattern behind the pattern. And sometimes it speaks through blood. Not because blood is magic, but because blood is you, your ancestry, your instincts, your story. Jung taught that every symbol is an invitation, not to define ourselves, but to meet ourselves, to become aware, because awareness is the first step toward freedom. So let's ask, one more time, are you the sage, trying to organize a chaotic world so your soul can breathe? The explorer, running towards mystery because routine feels like death? The mediator, translating between truths and holding space for contradiction? The warrior, decisive and action-oriented, trying to protect what matters most? Or are you all of them? Are you not a single voice, but a choir, not a label, but a landscape? There's a phrase Jung used often. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And I think that starts when we look at even the smallest things like a blood type and ask, what could this teach me about my soul? I'll leave you with something strange. Octopuses have blue blood. It's copper-based instead of iron-based. They navigate the deep, change their shape, feel their way through darkness. I like to think we're not so different. Are deep-sea creatures in a world of light, trying to remember, trying to become. So next time you see those 2 letters on a form, don't just pass them by. Pause. Listen, and let them whisper something sacred, something only you can hear. Because the goal isn't to live by your blood type. It's to live beyond it. Take a moment, not to think, not to analyze, just to feel. Beneath everything we've talked about, the symbols, the archetypes, the biological labels, something softer was unfolding. A silent call, the kind you don't hear with your ears, but with that place in your chest that tightens when you're far from yourself and loosens when you come home. Carl Jung didn't want us to label ourselves. He wanted us to meet ourselves, to look at the stories life has written in our body, our behavior, our blood, and say, so that's where I've been hiding. Your blood is not your destiny, but it may be a doorway. And if today's journey revealed even one part of yourself, you'd forgotten a part you've judged, or ignored, or maybe quietly mourned, then good. Because that's where it begins, not with the answers, but with the willingness to ask better questions. You are not just type A, or B, or AB, or O. You are not just positive or negative. You are not just a personality, or a pattern, or a product of ancestry. You are a becoming, and somewhere in the space between order and chaos, instinct and reflection, tribe and solitude, you are finding your shape. So walk gently with yourself. Trust your own rhythm. Let the whispers within guide you, not because they are right, but because they are true. And if this stirred something in you, if you felt a twinge of recognition, a memory without words, a quiet exhale that said, finally, then stay with us, because this is just the beginning. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope today you find a quiet corner to continue that silent conversation with yourself. And don't forget to subscribe. There are many more videos to come about dreams, the shadow, and the hidden corners of the soul waiting for you ahead.